Hey there, this is Brad with Bootsy the dog in my lap, and we are on our way home from taking my daughter to school. A couple weeks ago, I had this idea to record these videos on my commute back from dropping my daughter off. Little did I know that we were coming up on a 2 week spring break for my daughter's school. So, good timing, Brad. But, anyways, I do want to use this time to just cover some different topics, whatever's on my mind. And for whatever reason, I have naming design systems on my mind. So let's talk about that for a bit. So when I mean naming design systems, I mean naming the actual thing, right? Things like Polaris or material design or lightning design system or carbon design system or any of those ones. Polaris is a crowd favorite, as we've learned over the years. Don't use that one. It's been spoken for now. But what is it about naming a design system? Why would you do it? How do you go about doing it? And all that. The why really comes down to, why does any brand name exist, right? Why do we have sort of names for products? And it really kind of boils down to, becomes kind of a shortcut, right? It becomes kind of an encapsulated term that really embodies what this whole thing is about. We encounter a lot of different design system initiatives and different generations of design system initiatives at organizations. So to have like an actual brand name, something that is distinct from our company's design system, really helps clarify and add a lot of just kind of clarification to, wait, do you mean the design system that was all the way back in 2017, or is this the latest generation one, next gen, or whatever you want to call it? And so having a brand name is really helpful to basically say, if your brand name is Splat, right? You're able to say, oh, Splat's design tokens or Splat's, accordion or something like that, right? I just kind of pulled that one out of my hat right there. But yeah, the spirit of having a name is that you are able to communicate it more clearly with the rest of the organization. You're able to sort of, use it. But probably one of the most practical benefits that these things provide is actually having a global namespace for your design system in code. And what I mean by that is things like having your CSS prefixed with a global namespace, right? So if it's Splat, you could do Splat dash card, Splat dash button, Splat dash accordion, and so on. And same thing goes for web components. Web components need a hyphen in the name. And so having this global namespace for this component library is actually a very sound idea. So you could say splat dash accordion, splat dash button, variant equals primary, and things like that. This is helpful for preventing collisions with non design system stuff, right? So we've worked with a couple different companies where they have their company's name as a namespace, and as it happens, a lot of different software across a company could end up sort of using that namespace, so that could cause collisions, right? So you don't want that. So having sort of a discrete brand name for the design system helps keep it clean and keep things from stepping on other things that might be called similar. But moreover, this is an interesting one, is by having a global namespace in code, what that really does is unlocks the ability to really sort of measure the adoption and measure, how much of the design system it's finding its way into the actual products that it serves. So keeping with their name Splat, right? You can kind of crawl through the DOM of any page, right? You could crawl through a site that has thousands of pages, and you could look for instances of Splat, right? You can look for instances of the design system name, whether that's in a class name or whether that's using web components proper. You can kind of hook on to that global namespace, that brand name, in order to track how things are going. Oh, there's 47 instances of Splat button on this page, right? And that's really valuable. That's really helpful. So that's a big one. That's probably one of the best, sort of utilities for a name. But I think that more from a product perspective, these things can be really valuable. Just helping communicate across different teams, getting things onto other teams' roadmaps, and this notion of a design system is kind of vague and nebulous, and it's got design in the title, and so a lot of people that aren't closer to design systems tend to be confused by what they are. But it helps give the design system some gravity, and helps give it sort of something to rally around. We've had clients make Christmas ornaments for the Atmos design system that we did with United Airlines and stuff. We've had, stickers and swag and other things. And it's just a really great way of kind of encapsulating these important ideas, helping get those ideas and concepts and assets disseminated in an organization. And also it's just kind of fun. So how do you go about doing this? We've done it a number of different ways. We've done just kind of brainstorming sessions with the internal team and, arrived at a name. We've, generated a bunch of ideas, put them up for a vote. We've had teams create entire Slack channels that devolve into obtuse Greek mythology very quickly. We've had all sorts of different sort of ways that these things have come about. Sometimes it takes legal approval and sort of stuff like that, which is kind of bananas. But at the same time, like, that's the game you're playing. So really understand what is needed in order to arrive at a name. But I will say that the sooner you can arrive at that name, even if it's maybe not set in stone, but just as movies, as you're sort of filming a movie, you could have a working title for said movie. That's a good sort of operating assumption, I think. Really try to get that in there, try to codify it as quickly as possible. And that unlocks a lot just from a communication standpoint, but also really unblocking code from being written using that namespace. So yeah, pick a brand name for your design system, get that circulated, start using it in your assets, normalize all of those things. That's another thing that we run into a lot, even whenever folks create the names for these design systems. If Figma libraries or reference websites or code bases and stuff were created before, they need to be updated. A lot of times we encounter situations where it's like, oh yeah, this is the code repository for that, but it's just not called that. It's like, you kind of need to take the time to really normalize these things and get it all nice and tight and cohesive. So I hope that this was helpful. This is, again, just kind of, we're going to hit different topics in hopefully 10-15 minutes or so. And I'm looking forward to doing more of these. So I hope you enjoy it. If you have any feedback, comments, whatever, let me know. But in the meantime, Bootsy and I say goodbye. Happy Monday.